Hello, hello, and welcome to Crosstalk, the show where the world builder sits down with one of the players in a one-on-one conversation to discuss the ins and outs of their character. In today's episode, I have Brian here with me. How are you doing, Brian?
I am doing wonderfully.
And we're here to talk about none other than Ashwalker Elias Cauldwell. Let's just hop right into it. Very basic first question. What's kind of the overview of the character that we didn't get to see in Home of Masks?
I think one element of Elias that wasn't able to be done well by myself in the role playing aspect is how curious he is about um things involving undead or in general. Like he is very empathetic towards them, but there is always a when you dive deeper past the oh I wonder how this happened, there is a curiosity um that can drive him in different directions.
Hmm. Very, very profound. And it definitely is a part that we didn't get to explore because you did make this character based very much around the undead when we were much
Hmm.
more worried about the essence of pure magics with the
Yeah.
combats and everything like that. And this was a whole interesting thing because Blood Hunter isn't well known, at least in Talion, and not many of us as a group have really tried to play one. So, what was the character creation process for Elias like, knowing that we were going to be 600 ish years earlier than regular Talion at the first millennium, and knowing that it was a short term campaign?
Okay, so with in mind of it being a short-term campaign and understanding some of the players that we have when we're playing Teleon or any of the one shots that we do, I just think of you. I remember you telling us that it took place way in the past, and I thought, okay, for me personally, I always view blood hunter magic or just the ritualistic side of being a blood hunter as something that is magic before it was refined. Like going into the esoteric stuff about how we currently have fire today is how oh just lighting a match or whatever. I
Mhm.
thought of that being akin to how cavemen making the first fire, and I thought of a parallel of that which would be blood hunters. Um, and I think it paired very well in the context of other characters having high powerful spells and magic. I think it's just a very old form of a time that was even longer before.
Yeah, as we had kind of talked about with this series, is Talion might be one of the younger versions of the planes of existence. So
Hmm.
there's that extra level of your magic being extra your magic in air quotes, I guess,
Quote unquote, yeah.
being this almost primal version that might not even have originated within Talion. Because there's a
Hmm.
lot about the background of this, of what you had built, that is very not talked about at the moment and could be explored later on, which kind of brings us into the whole visual of a blood hunter not using blood.
Yeah.
This kind of ties into the title as well. So if we just want to mix those two together, let's
Yeah,
talk
for
about
sure.
the visuals and the title. Let's start with the title and how it came to be and what it means to Elias.
Okay, so the title is Ashwalker, and I remember originally when I brought up to you, Monty, that I wanted to play a blood hunter, you were like, okay, so in this context, I feel like they wouldn't use blood because it's like an elven society and how they care about how they look and how a plethora of reasons. And I was like, okay. Um, and talking about how the society and how it is filled with people are trying to extend their lives. And I was like, okay, I feel like we can definitely use something with the ash and create that parallel and add that narrative into that. Um So, and we got Ashwalker because we thought that it would just work well with all of those like different puzzle
Yeah,
pieces.
I think one of the main parts that pushed us in that direction is you showed interest in being from the graveyard
Yes.
the graveyard or cemetery, which we had
Mhm,
worked out and defined even more, where this whole ash situation, the origination of the name, because I think you we kind of tweaked it from one of my first writings,
mhm,
was cremation ash,
mhm.
and you were able to weave it into this whole other secondary story, which we can get into now.
Yeah. Um, I so the backstory for Elias really is that he had a master that was a teacher, a father figure really that was killed during one of his during the day of his ceremony to be like an official Ashwalker. And there was in that ritual, he had to he had these trials to deal with the different spirits of past Ashwalkers, which wasn't many, but still, that alone, like gave him that experience to basically overcome death, and move past that because that was part of the trial of Ashwalkers. It's like if you survive this trial, you will be official and will be into this community. But also, if you die, if you don't succeed, you will become Ash yourself.
Yeah, this
Um,
whole like the title is Ashwalker, but it's almost the title of a group of people. It's not even just like your title, similar to
yeah.
how Mir Devere later on was like, my title is an item. Your
Mhm.
title is a group of people, which is also kind of pulls into that duality of what happens later on.
Yeah.
And when I think of the Ashwalkers now, I get so much Dark Brotherhood vibes from like Skyrim.
Yes. I That's definitely one of the inspirations. I definitely thought of like the Dark Brotherhood. I also thought of like very anime inspired. I thought of Castlevania,
Ooh, okay.
especially in the design of Elias. And I think Olivia saw where I was going and was like, "Okay, we're gonna take it to the we're gonna move even higher with this." Um, yeah, because of his low magic, I wanted his martial prowess to be like the forefront of that, and then all of the ash curses, whatever, just amplifies that.
Yeah, so you bring up this idea of Castlevania kind of inspiring the looks and movements. Your style for using Blood Hunter was very anime inspired, which I did
Oh
love.
yeah.
So I wouldn't have thought of um, Castlevania because I don't know anything about it. I was thinking more
Mhm.
of Gara of Sand or
Oh,
the
for
Sand Gara,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
from Naruto because he also had those little gourd style things. Was that also part of the inspiration? And like what
Oh,
other aspects kind of went into the visuals for this class?
yeah, so the gourds or the gourds that were holding the ash,
Urns, I guess is the correct term.
yeah, were urns, were definitely Gara inspired. And the I don't think I only got into it in while we were playing for a little bit. There was a red string inside of one of the gourds, um, for the curse of binding. And it was only I only talked to this character a little bit, but it was the Face Stitcher. Um and the whole thing with them was that like, oh, um you and my mom were really close and you gave me this string that helped me be able to do this and just concentrate better on manipulating the ash and doing what I needed to do. um so that definitely was um helped with that, and it made me think of, I'm a Greek mythology dude. I thought of the fates too. Like I thought of like weaving string and different timelines and whatever. But I thought it would be a cool visual thing that could also work well with this like dark but happy aesthetic of who Elias is as a person.
Yeah, because
Um,
there's that element of you work in the cemetery. there's darkness, but you have to be that light because you are the like ceremony master basically when it
Hmm.
comes to all the events that take place within the cemetery.
Yeah, and I it worked. I'm happy that I was able to present that and get that duality. But no, Gara, like you said before, definitely right on the head because I think he is one of the coolest anime characters. Just I wanted something that could have that feeling, but also not be as brutal and just be like, okay, crush someone's arm or whatever. But
Yeah. It was very apparent during some of the skill challenge stuff when you were rushing towards the fracture. You're like, I just make this dome that I landed. I'm like, I feel like I've seen that before.
seen this somewhere.
Can't put my finger on it, but I absolutely can. But yeah, that was always good. Let's get into the actual series now that we've talked for a good 10ish minutes about kind of the background of the character. Your Elias isn't a normal sight to have been at a masquerade ball of this level. So I guess this is kind of still in the background, but how
Yeah.
did Elias get invited to this masquerade ball by the king and queen?
So Elias was invited um by the king and queen because um during his time under Armani, um there was a funeral for one of the lords or ladies, and Elias was there and present and kind of shadowing Armani, and then at a certain point, kind of taking over um, and running the processions and just running everything to make sure the ceremony went off as well as it did. Giving the queen, consoling and helping her deal with the grief, um, and just being a force in that space and be an outlet to be talked to and to talk to others in this like time of need.
Yeah, because as we had seen, the king and queen are very appreciative of many of the people within the city. They
Mhm.
definitely tried to do their rounds as best they could during the masquerade. The inspiration for the look for going to the masquerade. Anything
Yeah.
there, like between like just the outfit and the mask itself.
Okay. So, um, when we were in Hero Forge, and I remember I showed you the first design for Elias before Olivia kind of amplified it, and you were like, "Oh, that's too combat heavy. Like this needs to be an elegant affair." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay." So I wanted to make something that was more like regal, but also soldier, if it came down to it. Um, and I wanted to find a perfect middle ground of like, oh, I look good, but also if something were to happen, I would be able to like defend myself and just look presentable and comfortable and functional.
Yeah, it's a good thing that
Um,
you guys bring weapons, I guess.
oh for sure. Oh for sure. Um, gosh, and I was just yeah, because I originally they had a shield originally, and I was like, oh, maybe that's gonna look too clunky with what was going on. So
Hey, Val's Hero Forge had this giant sword and he used a flail, so who really cares?
yeah, that's true.
I'm definitely putting that out when we have our meeting, but that's for a later time.
Mhm.
In the beginnings of like episode 1, before you guys even got to go inside of the castle proper, you all were out in like the garden area with all the NPCs around. You all did some talking, but you didn't obviously get to talk to everyone. There was over 20 NPCs at this event. Were there any NPCs that you wish you got a chance to talk to?
Oh gosh, oh, it was the NPC who ripped off his tongue, stabbed it, and teleported
Mm-hmm.
into the
Sundriel Zephyr, the Grand Sorcerer.
Sundriel Severe. I definitely would want to talk to him more, because Elias would have been interested in things that he's seen, things that he have done, and especially what what is it like dealing with like because like he is he part Fae? I don't know. I just know that Elias would see that he has a lot of experience and could learn stuff from him.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
confirmed that he is like a full archfey,
yeah.
but I don't know how well
Hmm.
that works in the canon of everything. But he is
Hmm.
definitely a very powerful fey being.
Yeah.
He made it so none of the people that he teleported with remembered anything when they came back.
Like a mind blank or gift of
Yeah,
gab or whatever. Yeah.
kind of like how we have seen in other versions of the Feywild that people can slow down time and stuff like that. He guaranteed that none of the people he brought with him remembered that they went to
Yeah.
the Feywild. Because back then, who knows, it was probably still very taboo to have gone to the Feywild or had that intermingling.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there are the ways you can fall in and out of the different planes of existence, but
Actively going yourself is different.
yeah, having full access is one thing. Bringing a group of people with you is a whole nother.
Yeah.
Any other people you wish to had talked to, either outside of the main event or once the actual event had occurred, making it to where there was the four tables and everyone was kind of sectioned off? Were you happy with the people you talked to? Did you wish you could
Oh,
have talked to others?
I was happy with everyone that I talked to. I just think sometimes I wonder what would it have been like if I got to the Orb of Magics first. Sometimes I think about that.
Well, we did kind of see how the Orb of Magics interacted with people. In
Yes.
episode one, when Elias walked, not Elias, that's you. When
Yeah.
Alexar walked up to them, they was like, "I don't know who you are. Why are you talking to me?" Because
Yeah.
they had that element of being one of the two most untouchable people within the city.
Hmm.
Between Elder Howleth and the Orb of Magics, they were the least seen people. So the fact they were both there was pretty extravagant, but there were a lot of ulterior motives to get to them for a lot of
Oh,
people.
for sure. But I feel like something in my head is like I always wondered like if I was able to like perceive higher than myself and realize that like, oh, Elias and the Orb of Magics, they have some parallels going on. They can see some things from the same way. And I was able to like plant a seed of like, hey, I see you. Oh, I see what you're going through. I wonder where that would have gone if it happened earlier instead of at the end. You know?
Yeah, because you definitely interacted a lot with the Ian Thera family, uh,
Yes.
getting up against Kordrak, where things could have gone sour
I
earlier
was
on.
yeah, I really thought that was gonna be like a quick like initiative. And I was like, oh god. One of the things I was trying to prepare because it was like, oh, no weapons or whatever. I was like, oh, if this man tries to swing on me, I want to go through him and just run. Just ooh, he just ghost away.
It's full Danny Phantom.
Yeah.
Getting into the whole Kordrak endeavor, because I knew this was a short series, I did have to throw some red herrings in.
Oh yeah.
Who did you think was going to be the person of most importance as of the beginnings of the masquerade?
Okay.
Like, I guess like before like the lightning strike in the first combat ensued,
Oh
who did you
yeah.
kind of expect to be the one to be pointing fingers at?
Ooh, you know what's crazy? In a strange way, even though they invited us here, I thought it was the king. I did. I'm not gonna lie.
I would
Like
say that that theory, while it does have merit, I think it would have more merit if the Silvalore family wasn't still in charge of the Elven continent today.
yeah,
If it was a
yeah.
different name back then, I would have absolutely been on board to try and do something like that.
Hmm. I and like that all changed when he got in the fight and like was casting spells and protecting people and whatever, whatever. I was like, okay, I gotta throw that out. Another one that was
No, like
at,
before the fight as well. Like that,
yeah,
like
even
before the
before
fight's
the fight.
important.
Yeah, another one that I was before where my brain was cooking only because and like I get it, his wife was pregnant, so I get it. Like he was in my face and whatever, but like the way Korjak was not letting his wife like exist and like talk to people, and it was very much my wife needs to listen to everything I say and she can't step out a lot. Like it felt weird. So I was like, girl, blink twice if you need help. Like if you
Yeah, he was built in such a way to be an antagonistic force for good
Yeah.
because their whole storyline is he had always been a royal because of his standing in the military during the Age of Giants.
Hmm.
She was a no one on the streets, no education, nothing like that, and he instantly fell for her. So he feels so protective of her because she's not normally in these types of scenarios.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that's why that extra protection was taking place. Not to be like he's misogynistic, all this stuff, and be like this woman
Yeah.
cannot speak even though she's married to me. It's
Yeah.
a she is so uncomfortable being in this royal standing because she lived her entire life in the slums
Okay.
of like the
That
outside of the city.
yeah, no, that makes sense. That does now. At first I was just like, girl, are you in danger?
Yeah, like
Is-
he is a scary figure. He was
yeah.
built to be large and intimidating. And then Marlevoir
Mhm.
showed up, and it's like, well,
Yeah. Well, okay.
two clashing heads. But getting into the combat, that first big combat against the living spells, what did you think of it? Did you think it was
Oh,
appropriate? All that
no.
stuff? Did that kind
I
of change your outlook on what was going to happen?
Yeah. So now thinking about it, like it as like from an overhead perspective, we're fighting living magic things. That should have clicked way faster than any other. I was still locked in on, oh, it might be the king, or oh, it might be someone else, or oh, it might be. We were fighting literal spells. Like,
You're in the city of magic. You live in a
yeah.
city that has a fracture that emanates magic. There's the chance always that there can be some kind of random surge. Maybe that's
Mhm.
what this was. That easily could have been the thought process behind the
Yeah.
character.
But the combat itself, loved. Oh, I loved it. It I was on the edge of my seat because those lightning,
Oh my god, they were so deadly.
they were crazy. If I didn't have a good dex, oh, I was wiped. I would have been wiped out so many times.
Yeah, like I that encounter was meant to overwhelm you all and force you to want to run away. But
Oh,
because oh yeah, but
oh, that's funny.
but yeah, like there's this level of combat is not meant to be run away from because of this video game standing. Jackson had a
Hmm.
great like synopsis of this. Go watch his episode, people watching, to get that outlook on stuff. But yeah, it's like we are so locked in when a combat encounter starts. It's like, well, they put this here for a reason. And 99% of the time, it's because it's going to be a life or death situation, not a
Hmm.
running to survive situation. Then it just comes down to this was your guys' first chance to show off what you're able to do, except for LXR, who basically got knocked out instantly, sadly.
Yeah.
But like this was your first chance to show off your combat skills, which was a very big thing for Marlevoir and for Elias, was you guys are very combat based. So there's also that level of you don't want to leave combat because of that.
Yeah.
And being the Ghost Slayer, I believe, or something like that.
It was yeah, that is Ghost Slayer is what I picked, yeah.
Yeah, since you're Ghost Slayer, they don't need blood to be able to be controlled, so there's also that element of I can do something against these creatures.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I got it." Once this happened and before Elixir was knocked out, I was like, "Oh, we got it." And I don't even know if that was from D&D perspective or me being a combat player and just eating up combat in D&D. Even aside from those two facts about me, I still was like, okay, we're locked in. I have things that can help against this. I feel like if we play our cards right, we can handle this.
Yeah, because there was like several like very minute hints that you guys would be able to escape. The windows were shattered.
Yeah.
Rosk, the changeling that got discovered by Alexar, ran out one of the doorways. They just
Yeah.
left. Like there were so many exits around, you guys went, nah,
Nah.
nah, it's time to rumble. But with the way Elias was built, I was able to use these spells, these living spells, without having to worry about making Elias feel weak because you chose Ghost Slayer. So like
Hmm.
your character had so much influence on certain outcomes of the enemy types as well. Because I
I
would,
didn't know that.
yeah, because I don't want to just play into your weaknesses to be like, oh,
Mhm.
they're really strong here. I don't want to play into that. But because you're able to affect creatures that don't have blood, I was able to be like, okay, I can go in a different route for enemy styles instead of it just being people that you can talk with. This
Yeah.
is an event that is not meant to be talked through. What can I throw at them? Living spells should be pretty interesting if done right. And it still plays into everyone being effective against them in their own
Yeah.
ways.
It was. I didn't know what to expect. Once you're like, oh yeah, it's a miniature like burning hands. I was like, oh, okay. What do I do against that? Do I get a bucket of water or something? Like,
It's like, good thing I drank a lot of wine, zip.
yeah.
Let's backtrack right before the first big combat to a kind of really interesting moment that became a bigger thing in the epilogue, the dance between Elias and Farandul. What were your thoughts kind of going into that?
Elias is a person who is attracted to people's intelligence and personality and how they carry themselves. And Farandul, when he saw them, they were very warm and gentle, but also there is there were he kind of was able to see through like a little bit of their what they had going on and be like they're very strong and know a lot about a lot. And it kind of just I don't know, it gravitated him towards them. It's like I want to know more about them.
Yeah, because not only were they a professor at the main school, they also had this extra element of being basically an archaeologist throughout the countryside. So
Yeah,
like they know even more than just what's taught in the books. They're actually out there exploring
in the
other
field.
elements. So
Yeah.
which like that's a whole nother level of knowledge. Be able to know how to go out there, survive, and come back.
Mhm. And I don't know, that dance for them was very like intimate because Elias is a human where it's just like I'm not used to other people being near me or being around me. But based off of his Ashwalker training, funny enough, being light on your feet is an element of that. And it's like, I can do this. I can do this very well. It's just combat, basically. And also props to Olivia for being on this. We did not plan that. We were just mentally in sync. It was like, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I think during the round table, Olivia had said they were kind of caught off guard with what happened during the epilogue between Elias and Farandul. Maybe we can get some more insight onto what you think about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
After the combat, went into a pretty intense conversation between the group because Elixir got very aggressive towards Marlavor, being like, that was your man that caused all of what just happened. Where was Elias's mindset during that initial conversation where fingers were starting to get pointed at Marlavor?
Elias knew his relation to Marlivore, even though it was only a little bit. So to clear the air, they definitely was like, oh, this is a time to just be 100% honest about everything. And then already feeling weird about Marlivore during the night of just like getting those like constant glances because their passive perception is pretty high. Of being like, okay, they're 100% trailing me when I'm walking across the room. Um, Added more to that. So I definitely thought it was a good thematic moment to be like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what you don't know about me. And that's fine. But like on top of these things, here's what's going on with the person we've been hanging out with this entire night. So now that we're here, let's actually discuss this.
Yeah, because Elias didn't really have much to do with the whole Rosk situation because we had to cut all
Yeah.
that out of session 0 because
Yeah.
of me not being quick enough on my feet.
It's fine.
But I appreciate that you did work very well with me having to retcon that knowledge for Elias,
Mhm.
since that was a whole kerfuffle where Val didn't know what to tell you. I didn't inform him of the situation and who would be around. I let you guys kind of handle a lot of the stuff, and I just wasn't fast enough. But you took it in stride and got rid of all the Rosk information. Be like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Who
So,
are you?
yeah. So I
Yeah.
definitely appreciate you being able to not use that meta knowledge
Mhm.
and just roll with how the story did go out.
Mhm.
Running towards the fracture. That hour-long sprint with embedded skill challenges and all of that. What did you think about all this? Like,
One
like out of nowhere skill challenge.
one caught me off guard. Two, it reminded me of this video game. It's like Mirror's Edge or whatever. It's like a
Oh,
parkour
yes.
video game.
I've never finished it, but I did enjoy it.
And that's what I was envisioning the whole time, but like with spells roaming around and us having to vault through buildings and whatever. Like that's what I was envisioning the whole time. And if Elixir didn't do the because I was gonna do Dex to be completely honest. When he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna acrobatics and vault through the whatever," I was like, "Man, now what am I gonna do?"
I'm locked out. I should have gone first.
Yeah. But no, I still was able to think about it. It was able to work fine. I and honestly, it just gave me another opportunity to show off more of a character's kit that I like using.
Yeah,
I really do like Elias's kit a lot.
and putting a skill challenge in a situation like this allows you all to be very creative with the aesthetics, which we had already talked about a lot, with how you
Mhm.
use your ash almost like the Gara sand and all that stuff. So you were able to have those near superhero moments, which is always very
Yeah,
fun to have. You've been playing D&D almost as long as I have, if not longer, I believe.
I think we're neck and neck on
Like
how
mine was
long.
around
Yeah,
2017 was when I
yeah,
started. Exhaustion rules are good in long-term campaigns. That's my
yes.
feeling for it. If I was to have given you exhaustion in a campaign like this, knowing you weren't going to get a long rest, that didn't feel right.
Ooh, it would have been painful.
Yeah. Thankfully, 3 of you succeeded on the check to not get exhaustion, but
Yeah.
Elixir did not succeed on that check. The rolling I had done was that he just lost a specific level spell slot. I think that was rather
Yeah, no,
fair.
I definitely think it's fair enough. I mean, if you're running for an hour straight, you're not going to be able to perform at the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So like, that brings in the question of your character. How would I have managed something like that? You don't have spells per se, and your kit is fairly limited on the amount of uses it has.
Yeah.
So I think at the time it was just like I was just going to roll a dice and be like, okay, I rolled a 3 on a d4. Mark off 3 uses anywhere in your kit.
Oh, I looking at his kid now. Funny enough, I think if you told me to do that, I would have taken one of the. Yeah, I would have taken one of the blood maledicts for sure. And then I probably would have got rid of the brand of sundering
Hmm.
No, not Brand of Sundering, Brand of Castigation, I think. And gosh, yeah, it would have to be. It would have, yeah, and I would have to get rid of the Sundering as well, probably. Oh,
And like,
oh,
I only really did that knowing that one of the layer actions would have given those abilities back.
no, for sure.
So it's like, at the time, it would have been like, shit,
Yeah,
we have, we are now knocked even lower than we were before after an intense combat and a short rest. What are we gonna do now? My kit's basically drained. Magic Surge, you gain it back.
yeah, it's all because even in that when that surge was happening, I think that surge happened twice. I remember
Yeah,
being
because
like,
I'm like,
"Oh,
I was like fishing for a two, and I'm like, I'm not getting it.
yeah." I was like, "What do I do?" You're like, "Oh, just take back your Aether Walk or your whatever," and I was like, "No, that's okay. I understand."
Yeah, you just get revitalized to get some of those skills back.
Hmm.
Speaking of skills, Grim Psychometry became a huge role in the last few sessions, and it almost felt overpowered to a sense. Do you think there should be a limit on the Grim Psychometry use?
I think. Oh, my brain is torn because I DM as well. I think that it is powerful. It is really powerful. I think they need to have a certain limit, like equal to proficiency, maybe
Yeah,
instead of
because like I
like
definitely put a limit
unlimited.
on it after making
Yeah,
you start to lose some limbs.
yeah, that was very fair.
Like I almost
Um,
feel like in the Witcher series, when you don't have the give and take, you should have some kind of cost to be able to
yeah,
pull something that strong. Granted, other DMs could probably do Grim Psychometry differently. I think my version was very above and beyond while still giving little information. So
yeah.
it's
No, I
very
love it.
taxing on the body for the limited information that you can get for it.
Yeah, and even when in talking about it, I knew what was gonna happen. I knew there was gonna be a cost at the second time that I used it, and I was prepared. I really thought I was gonna get wiped, and if I was, I would have been like, you know what, guys, it was fun. Like it was, I had a fun time. But no, what I love the most about Grim Psychometry and how it was used in this setting is that narrative wise, ugh, it was so beautiful. It was so it gave it painted a picture, and because magic was heightened, it only amplified it even more to being like, no, you're full on experiencing. You're might as well be sitting right next to them, feeling this feeling.
It's one of
Ugh,
those things where, because this series is so short, and it was also this mystery element of who is the one that's making this problem occur, there's that needed backstory to
mhm,
understand what got them to this point. So Grim Psychometry was my way, in that extended version of going beyond what it should probably be able to do, to give
mhm.
that inward look at why the enemy is the way they are. It gives that perspective of why danger is reasonable.
Yeah, I I feel the same, and I don't know. I just loved how like it just felt right in that moment. It just felt right. I can't word it. If I had to do that combat again, I don't think I would have done anything differently,
You wouldn't have gone to
honestly.
phase two?
Oh, no, I would have gone to phase two.
Yeah.
But I think if things were gonna lay out the way they laid out before.
Yeah. If we're going to be moving towards the end, the Kordrax scene, going underneath the school, finding the secret outlet into the school, all those things. What was kind of going through your mind as the sounds of all of the destruction of the city was happening started to diminish the deeper and deeper you went into the underground towards the middle of the fracture?
Gosh, Elias was terrified. He was like, I so their whole thing was wanting to protect life, wanting to keep life extended through the means of using necromancy. And everything that's going on as they're going deeper and deeper and deeper is killing life. Life is being snuffed. So the whole time they're just just trying to focus to be like, okay, the faster we get this done, I can work on what I need to get done and then start helping people. Because right now it is bad. It is very bad outside.
And then seeing Kordrak just get absolutely folded. What was the
Yeah.
thoughts there?
Core drag being folded as a player, I was like, okay, that red herring is definitely gone. And then after seeing him, it was kind of just like investigation mode. It was just like, okay, what's going on? He was like severed and like brutally murdered, and it was like, what's just trying to gain pieces. I think we all rolled like an investigation check or whatever to try to like get a better grasp of the scene, whether it's like, oh, an animal or oh, a like trying to determine the direct like way how he died.
Yeah.
Um
Oof. Having him in four pieces, knowing that he was this antagonistic red herring role, and being like this ex-military person as well, it's like that should be a hardy enemy to kill.
yeah,
It didn't seem like he was able to put up a fight against whatever he fought. So there's that
which
extra layer of if we go deeper, what are we going up against?
yeah, which on top of that, seeing that and that being what it is like, guys, we're cooked. We're kind of cooked, honestly.
Which you guys learned later on, because Olivia kind of pointed it out, what the reasoning for the Ian Thera family really was.
Yeah.
Their whole story is a single sentence in the backstory document. There's one line that talks about people going towards as close to the fracture as possible to give birth to a child to maybe heighten their abilities. The Ian Thera family knew that they were going to be overthrown in their ranking of royals,
Hmm.
because they were the lowest of the royals to have been invited in the first place.
Yeah.
They knew that their ranking was getting challenged and they had to do something about it. So they were desperate. They had done their research. Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. Talk about wrong place, wrong time, really. Ugh. Well, I wonder what's gonna happen with that kid if you're gonna do anything like context wise. If
There's other things that have gone on. I haven't really thought about what has occurred of the Ian Thera family. I don't think they really lasted much longer.
okay,
I think they kind of got ostracized after Kordrak's death.
okay,
So Lady Yorva would have been kind of moving on to do whatever she wanted to do. Had the kid not near the fracture after all of the events of what happened, and you guys
yeah,
getting her out of there, and kind of went back to a rather normal life.
okay,
Because she's just like, I'm not supposed to be with the royals, and my one connection has just passed away.
yeah,
So she kind of just returned back to normal life, keeping the Ian Thera name.
yeah.
Single mother.
Ugh.
That combat did
That
not go
combat,
as expected.
that combat was crazy.
Because obviously I wasn't going to make it a 1v4. That wouldn't have been fair on my side.
Yeah.
It would have been heavily skewed into your advantage, especially with it being Mir Devere, a only spellcaster.
Mhm.
Yeah, they had a melee weapon. Did they get to use it? Not really. Was it useful? No.
No.
Having that second Mir Devere, a simulacrum, a spell that didn't exist at the time, was such an interesting thing narratively to kind of explain. Because like when you attacked it, I said it didn't bleed. It's not bleeding.
Yeah.
Because if you were a normal blood hunter, that would have been an issue.
Yeah.
Because in the original writings for Simulacrum, they are made out of snow. This one was just kind of made. They weren't really made of anything.
Okay.
It was just kind of just pure magic incarnate, kind of almost being projected by the orb of magic itself. So it's like this weird tie between the two of them. I don't know. It's just a very weird creature
I
because it's like the older version of Mir Devere and almost
mhm,
looks like Mir Devere's mother figure,
yeah,
while Mir Devere themselves were using this magic to stay young.
and like draining it out of people to get that too. I I'm happy. Well, I wanted to get. Trust me, I wanted to get into that stage too. But my goal was when if we had to go there, and I'm happy I didn't because things played out the way that they did. But trying to use oh yeah, we would have to kill it first. Get that second Mirdavir to be dead, and then amplifying the Curse of the Falling Puppet
Mm.
onto um Mirdavir Prime.
Yeah, it
um
was young and old Mir Devere is kind of how
Young
they
and old
labeled
Mirdavir,
them.
yeah. Um
That would have been very interesting because the weapon that old Mir Devere had was devastating, like to get hit by, but it was an
mhm,
attunement item. So Marlevore could have easily picked it up, but it would have had no effect.
yeah.
Which that item, what it did is it had extra force damage, and
Okay.
when and it had this push effect where if you hit against the wall, it would do an extra bout of damage. So it's all about mobility. Because one thing I
Oh
can't stand in combat is when no one moves.
yeah. Where it's just like I hit, I attack, I yeah.
Yeah, I am fighter. I roll 3 attacks. I miss. End my turn.
Yeah.
Like there's no flavor there, so it's like it adds that extra flavor that is always needed in this narrative field of combat that we try to run.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I talked about what the phase two was of this Mir Devere combat.
No, I don't think you ever did. So I'm interested.
When they hit 0 hit points, they were going to dimension door and just fall into the fracture and almost get enveloped by pure magic, and the orb of magic was going to turn into this giant, like, spherical octopus tendrilled arm, and it just would have had a million attacks per turn. It was just pure magic
Oh
fighting
my
back.
god.
It had vulnerabilities to dispel magic and anything that would weaken magic.
That's the first thing I thought about too. I was like, we got a dispel magic in here? Do we have
Yeah.
a
If you would have dispelled magic at 5th level, I think it would have done 50 to 70 damage.
word?
So it's like, it is magic incarnate. That was the name of the creature that would have come out.
Yeah.
And it just would have been you guys finding a way to destroy magic itself. Mir Devere would have just been atomized, basically, at that point. But they would have
Wow.
been the form that they were trying to be, magic incarnate.
Ugh. So sad.
Yeah, it's a tragic character, which makes the narrative ending feel so much better.
Yeah.
The ending and epilogue. Anything you want to talk about there with all of the Elixir choosing to stay behind, you guys running away, going into the astral plane and just aether plane, and then just
If you're playing, yeah.
getting
Um,
blasted by magic on all ends.
the whole time didn't know he was a bomb. So that was crazy. That reveal was crazy. Uh
That's just Jackson. That's
I
just how
yeah,
Jackson makes
that
characters.
was
He
yeah.
wants those characters to be used in some way, and I was like, he's not gonna get it in any other story I write for him. I'll give it to him here.
Yeah. So that was crazy. Um Leaving with um her the like Mirdavir giving me the orb also was unexpected. That I didn't expect at all. I mean, I my argument was I'm trying to help, and they were just like, "Here you go.
Yeah,
Thank you for
it
helping
was.
me."
I guess we talked about earlier. It's those weird similarities between the two of you. One that comes from pure like royal ex royalty and power and an upstart. There's that
Yeah.
crazy similarities between the two of you that brought you to that same playing field, and they saw that.
So that also caught me off guard. Uh Yeah, the Aether Walk last second, I didn't know what to do, so I was like, "Oh wait." I remember asking, I was like, "If I Aether Walk, is there like all day? Like, can I basically fly? Like, what is the logistics of movement in this space?" Um, and it was very like in the moment. I didn't know if you were gonna ask us to make more skill checks on the way out. That's what I was trying to think ahead. I was like, are we gonna have to like dodge rubble and make sure we don't like get pummeled to death?
Well, very similar to how New York is built on bedrock. It's
Mhm.
very hard to crumble the undercity of
Okay.
Aranchis, which is why it's able to be built so tall. Which
Yeah.
we'll maybe see one day in Telion. Like the way I describe the city is all these very tall buildings, 12, 13 stories. It's not
Mhm.
even close to that anymore.
Oof.
Like one of the ways I described the fracture district was a needle poking the clouds.
Mhm.
We're above the clouds at this point in regular Telion for the fracture district.
Wow.
Like it is, they have figured out how to manufacture around the fracture so much that they've been able to amplify it even more in current Telion. But we'll see
Which
that
is
eventually.
yeah, that's crazy. But on top of that, um, yeah, the epilogue and like the ending, I I don't know. I'm happy with what I got out of Elias. I really am. I wanted Marshall, but I still wanted spells, but I didn't want to play a Eldritch Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that. And was able to do some cool stuff. And on top of that, I don't know. I think in a strange way, I feel like Mirdavir and Elias kind of like switch places in a way where Elias is now working for the betterment of the people in Aranches. But also he is using grim psychometry to like have these moments with people, like almost like a therapist, but like
Mm-hmm.
a very like physical, direct way. Instead of like your therapist being like, "Oh, tell me how you're feeling," they just put a hand up to your face and just like, "Give me a second." It's just
Don't
so
mind
in a
my eyes and mouth going blah.
yeah, don't mind my face, or anything. Don't mind me as I fade out.
I can't remember if we talked about the what happened with the orb of magics.
Yes. Okay.
I
Um.
think we said it was kind of like put away somewhere, but if you want
Yeah.
to like talk a little bit more on that.
So I remember you gave us a moment. You gave a moment for Olivia and I to figure out what are we doing with the orb because Elias didn't want the public to just have orb because that could lead to worse things. And because of Farandul's occupation, it's like you know how to deal with things that other people shouldn't have. Um, so the two of them definitely hit it somewhere, but at the same time, was like only certain people, like officials of like high regard, would probably be in the know about where it would be. Like
Do you
a short,
think Rin the Rin, the Nexus Weaver, and Damali Esperis would have known?
yes, I think they would have been in the know about like the orb and about its whereabouts, but it definitely is a closed circle and is not big
Yeah,
at all.
because that's just so interesting in the current day lore, knowing that Matrium Esperis has a very successful magic business,
Mhm.
and does Matrium Esperis even know about the Orb of Magics? Or did that kind of die with that generation of elves?
I think I envision that like it was always something that like they know where it is, but because that orb is like a well of magic, um, it's always like I'll bring out the orb if things go really, really bad.
It is a finite resource.
Yeah, like it's the launch codes in Arachis basically.
Well, maybe Godus has it now. Who knows? No.
The way my body just exploded and like my spirit was gone. It was like that's the last thing I need that man to have.
Well, this has been a good little cross-talk for us. The last question, which you had already kind of answered. Did you enjoy your time as Ashwalker Elias Cauldwell?
Honestly, I love my time with Ashwalker Elias. Honestly, I play him again for real. I just I
Nah,
love.
nah,
I
not for
know,
me.
I know, I
Not
know,
for
I
me.
know, I know, I know. But I just no, I like his concept a lot, and I like being able to work with what I had for this story and get all the mileage I could.
Yeah, maybe we'll see an Ashwalker in the future. But thank you for joining me for this little cross-talking and a deeper dive into Elias. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time for the next crosstalk. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Crosstalk, the show where the DM and or the world builder, that's an awful take. We'll be this is the first time I've talked all day. Let's try this again.
Wittily world been doing.
I'm wittily world building with my friend Brian. Like, let's do this.